The movie kicks off in sunny California, where Evan and Karen are living the perfect family life with their 2 kids and a little dog. Karen's an artist, busy, preparing her biggest sculpture for an upcoming exhibition, while Evan works as an architect. At breakfast, the whole family laughs and teases each other. Karen's assistant, Louie, drops by with the exhibition catalogs, and Evan reminds the kids to pack everything for their weekend trip to the beach with Mom. Karen shows Louie the sculpture, still drying, and tells him to pick it up once it's ready. Before leaving, she reminds Evan that his physical therapist, Vivian, will be stopping by tomorrow. The kids beg him to come along, but he has to stay home and finish work. That night, the weather turns dark and stormy. Evan stays up late at his computer, music spinning softly on his fancy turntable. Karen calls to say they already miss him, but soon after he goes back to work, building 3D models and prototypes deep into the night. Then, a knock at the door. When Evan opens it, 2 soaked girls are standing there, looking lost. They say they're looking for someone, but he doesn't recognize the name. Still being polite, he lets them in to use his computer and figure out where they're supposed to be. They introduce themselves. The blonde one is Belle, and the other is Genesis. They explain that they mispronounced their street name to the cab driver and ended up way off course. Evan orders them an Uber, which will take about 45 minutes to arrive. Since they're drenched, they ask if they can toss their clothes in the dryer. Evan agrees, gives them robes, and even puts Genesis's wet phone and rice to dry. He makes tea while they wait, but when he returns to the living room, the girls are dancing to vinyl on his old record player. They laugh and tease him about his massive record collection. Evan smiles and tells them he used to DJ back in his 20s. They're surprised. He doesn't look that old, they say. Evan laughs and admits he married young. His wife and kids are away for the weekend, and he stayed back to work. The girls act sympathetic, calling it sad that he's all alone. One of them hugs him, a little too long, while the other comments that he's too ripped to be that old. Evan looks awkward but polite, and things settle down. They start talking about his wife's art. Evan proudly tells them that all the sculptures around the house were made by Karen. Belle is impressed. And Genesis, who says she took 1 semester of art history, Evan's clearly uncomfortable now, so he changes the subject, asking what they do for a living. They tell him they're flight attendants, then start role-playing as if they're on a plane, flirting with him. Evan laughs awkwardly and moves to another chair, trying to steer the conversation back to normal. But the girls keep the playful energy going. They gossip, flirt, and somehow keep bringing everything back to sex. Evan nervously checks the Uber timer again, still a few minutes away. He gets up to change the record when Belle picks one out from his collection, and with that, the tension in the room begins to rise. Back at the house, Evan starts talking more about his wife's art, and Belle listens closely, clearly fascinated. She starts dancing to the soft vinyl beats, and soon Evan joins in, showing off some of his old DJ skills from back in the day. He mixes another record, creating a perfect blend that gets Belle smiling from ear to ear. She laughs and tells him she's actually glad they knocked on his door. This is way more fun than that party they were supposed to go to. Evan jokes that his house isn't usually this exciting, and Belle playfully says it must be destiny that they met. The two share a moment. Belle pulls him closer, her flirting growing more obvious. Just as she leans in to kiss him, the Uber arrives. Evan, flustered, steps back and tells her it's time to go. Belle goes to get Genesis while Evan grabs their clothes, but the girls don't come to the door. When he goes to check, he hears them laughing in the bathroom. He opens the door and freezes. Both girls are completely naked. "Surprise!" they giggle. Evan panics, trying to act calm. He tells them their Uber's outside and begs them to get dressed, but Genesis walks up and kisses him. He resists at first, but when both girls touch him, he gives in. The Uber driver calls, no one answers, and drives off into the storm. Meanwhile, Evan gives in to temptation. The night turns wild, a threesome in the bathtub, then the bedroom. By the time they fall asleep, the damage is done. The next morning, Evan wakes up alone. Reality hits hard. He quickly replies to his wife's text, slips his wedding ring back on, and checks the house. He thinks they're gone, until he hears laughter in the kitchen. He walks in to find Genesis flipping pancakes and Belle dancing around, like they own the place. They act completely casual, joking and teasing him. Evan snaps, demanding they leave immediately. But the girls just laugh at him. Then Karen calls. Evan runs outside to take the video call. He panics, telling her he smoked too much weed and passed out. Karen laughs, calling him a lightweight, while the girls press their faces against the glass door behind him, making faces and gestures. Evan shifts the camera away so Karen doesn't see them and fakes a smile, saying he's been working all night and making great progress. Karen senses something's off but ends the call. Evan storms back inside, yelling at the girls to get dressed and leave. They go into the other room, but when he checks on them, only Genesis is there. He finds Belle in his bedroom, wearing his shirt, pretending to be emotional. She throws herself into his arms, saying she loves him. Completely overwhelmed, Evan drags her back to Genesis and gives them 3 minutes to get dressed. He waits outside, smoking, trying to calm down. When he walks back in, his blood runs cold. The girls are standing on top of his wife's sculpture, painting all over it. Evan explodes. Furious, Evan threatens to call the police. But Genesis smirks and says that might not be a good idea. Because they're underage, Evan freezes. Belle claims she's 15 years old. Evan laughs it off, thinking it's another sick joke, but Genesis insists. "You'll go to prison," she taunts. "They'll call it statutory rape." Evan's mind spins. The girls' whole story about being flight attendants was a lie. "We saw that in a movie," Genesis laughs. Panicking, Evan asks what they want. "Money?" he offers, pulling out his wallet. But that just insults them. Belle slaps him across the face, yelling, "We're not whores!" Just then, the doorbell rings. Evan rushes to answer. It's Vivian, his physical therapist. She starts chatting cheerfully, but Genesis suddenly appears behind him and says loudly, "He doesn't want your massage today." Vivian freezes, confused. She looks between Evan and the half-dressed girl and storms off, furious and disgusted. Evan tries to explain, but it's useless. She leaves, saying, "It is what it looks like." When he turns back, the girls are wrecking his turntable. He loses it, pushing Belle away and yelling at them to get out. But they keep teasing and mocking him. Genesis gets right in his face, whispering cruel things until Evan finally snaps, grabbing her by the throat. Belle panics and raises one of Karen's statues, ready to hit him if he hurts Genesis. Evan lets go, trembling. He grabs his phone to call the police, but Genesis smashes the line and laughs. Instead, she demands he give them a ride. Beaten and exhausted, Evan agrees. He drives them to a suburb, trying to stay calm. When they get out, Belle leans into the window and asks softly, "Want to come in and meet my mom?" Evan just stares, but they never go inside. He speeds home, shaken. That night, he scrubs every inch of the house, the kitchen, the bathroom, even tries to clean the ruined sculpture. Finally, he takes a pill to calm down, convinced it's all over, but just as he sits back at his desk, glass shatters somewhere in the house. Evan rushes to investigate, heart pounding. Nothing. Silence. Then he spots a family photo on the floor. The glass cracked. As he kneels to pick it up, Genesis appears behind him and smashes his head with one of Karen's sculptures. Everything goes black. Evan wakes up, tied to the bed. His head is pounding and his wrists are bleeding from the ropes. Across the room, Genesis is calmly putting on makeup, humming like nothing's wrong. He begs her to untie him, his voice trembling. "Please. I'm a good man. I just made a mistake." But she doesn't even look at him. Then Belle walks in, wearing his daughter's clothes, even her underwear. Evan loses it. He screams at her to take it off, calling her a crazy psychopath. Belle just laughs, takes off the underwear, and throws it at him, dancing around like a child mocking a parent. "Every girl's first love," she whispers, "is her daddy." Evan shouts that she's sick, but Belle doesn't stop. She climbs onto him, taunting him with twisted stories about her childhood, her broken relationship with her father. Behind her, Genesis scribbles something on the mirror in lipstick. It was not a dream. Then Belle snaps. She starts hitting him, screaming at him as if he was her father, the one who hurt her years ago. Suddenly, Evan's phone rings. It's Karen, his wife. Both girls look at the screen, then unzip his pants, threatening to answer the call. Evan panics, begging them not to do it. He promises to do anything they want. Belle smirks, straddles him, and whispers, "Then make love to me." Genesis starts recording on his phone while Belle assaults him, before leaving the room laughing. But Evan manages to break his restraints, grabs Belle, and pushes her off. He storms through the house, bleeding and furious, until he finds Genesis in the kitchen, eating cake like nothing's happened. He lunges at her, grabbing her by the throat. But Genesis stabs him in the shoulder with a fork and twists it deep. Evan collapses in pain, screaming. The girls laugh and tie him up again. They start another one of their twisted games, a mock TV show called You're Guilty. Genesis plays the host, Belle the contestant. Evan calls them liars and psychos. So Genesis cranks up the speakers, blaring noise through his turntable until his ears ring. He begs her to stop, and she does, only to mock him with more questions. Every time he refuses to play, she punishes him again. Then the doorbell rings. It's Louis, Karen's assistant, there to pick up the sculpture. The girls quickly cover Evan with Genesis answers the door, smiling sweetly, telling Louis that Uncle Evan is letting them film a music video in the house. Louis looks confused. When he sees the ruined sculpture, he knows something's wrong. The girls lie, saying someone broke in. Louis doesn't buy it. When he tries to call the cops, Genesis flirts with him, but he brushes her off. Then Evan starts making noise, and Louis rushes to help him. He finds Evan tied up, cuts him loose, and runs to deal with the girls. But when he hears them smashing the sculpture, he panics and runs back, gasping for his inhaler. The girls giggle, tossing it between them. Louis stumbles, desperate for air, and falls, cracking his head on the sculpture's base. He's dead. Evan screams for help, but the girls just laugh. "Your wife killed him," Genesis says. "Her sculpture did it." They cover Louis's body in paper, turning it into a grotesque art piece. Then, Genesis sends a text from Evan's phone, making it look like Louis left town, before shoving the body into his van. When they return, they start the game show again. Evan insists he's a good man, a good father, but that what happened doesn't define him, but Genesis mocks him, saying his family are just victims of his perversion. Belle spits on a photo of Karen and the kids, saying that's exactly what he did to them. Evan finally realizes the truth. They're not planning to leave him alive. He begs for his life, crying that they were the ones who started everything. Genesis smirks and says his execution will be at dawn. Outside, the girls start digging a grave in the backyard. Inside, Evan manages to use his tablet to try calling Karen, but Genesis catches him. They steal more clothes from his closet, destroy his models, and vandalize Karen's sculptures. They even give Evan a ridiculous bowl haircut, laughing hysterically as they trash everything. Then Belle finds his gun. She unties him, but instead of freeing him, Genesis tells him they want to play one last game, hide and seek. He has 30 seconds to hide. If they can't find him by sunrise, they'll leave. Evan bolts for the kitchen, grabbing a knife as the girls start counting down. He hides in the shadows, waiting for a chance to run, but Genesis finds him first. "You can scream all you want," she whispers. "No one will hear you." The girls drag him outside, shove him into the hole they dug, and start to bury him alive. They leave his head sticking out, dirt up to his neck. Evan sobs, begging for mercy. Genesis removes his gag, saying they'll let him go if he calls his wife and confesses everything. He agrees. But when she dials Karen's number and gets voicemail, Evan screams for help. Genesis smiles and hangs up. She pretends to drop a sculpture on his head, then laughs when he flinches. "Relax," she says. "We're not going to kill you." They tell him it was all a game. "Every man we've done this to says the same thing," Belle says softly. "You're no different." Then they reveal the final truth. They were never underage. Before leaving, Belle posts the recording of their night on Facebook, right from Evan's phone. She leaves the phone in front of his face, still playing the video, and they walk away, laughing. Evan cries helplessly, trying to delete the video, but in his panic, he accidentally hits the like button. By the next morning, the post is already blowing up online. When Karen and the kids return home, they find the house destroyed, the sculptures ruined, the walls vandalized, and the man they loved, buried in shame. And that's the end of Knock Knock. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more movie breakdowns every week. Thanks for watching, stay safe, stay smart, and maybe don't open the door for strangers.